Hello, welcome back to the Business Learning Lab, where Meredith and I have made all the business mistakes so you don't have to. This episode, we are talking about the importance of business boundaries.
Big topic. So
Oh my gosh, so important. If you have been like us and in our business past, I've certainly learned that by not having boundaries, I have done nothing but burn myself out, get frustrated, cause frustrations for other people.
mhm.
So I love this topic. Why do you love this topic, Meredith?
I love this topic because this was really one of the main lessons that I've had to learn over and over and over. Every time it's a new application, it's a new boundary that got breached, it's a new way that I learn the lesson. So I'm not just making the same mistake over and over, but it's I think this idea of appreciating boundaries, establishing boundaries, and then holding those boundaries that's the key. Is central to everything, and it's going to come up over and over and over. And the ability to maintain boundaries and respect boundaries, both yours and other people's, is really key, I think, in like all the other stuff we talk about with work-life integration and being happy with work and not getting burnout and being successful and being able to scale. All those things I really think get wrapped up with boundaries.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought it up, the fact that we often will make boundaries, create boundaries, feel really good about those boundaries. And then we are the ones that breach them and blurry them. And then we wonder why they don't stick. Because as soon as you breach your own boundary, blur your own boundaries, you are giving other people permission to disregard them. So I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but I think that's just such an excellent point. And there are so many different kinds of boundaries that we can build, right? So communication boundaries, behavioral boundaries, service boundaries. I broke a boundary that I established for our Spirit VAs. So you know this, Meredith, because we're co-founders of Spirit, but I do not send out email communication to our Spirit VAs unless there's something on fire, which is very, very, very rare. And I had to communicate with the VA about some client communication that needed to be passed along, and I had every intention of scheduling that email to go out on Monday at 10 a.m. But I got into writing the email and it was Saturday and I completely forgot to hit the schedule button and I realized it had gone out. Well, then I think I added insult to injury in that I sent another email apologizing for sending the other email. So I was like, how do I make this right? I've breached this boundary. And of course, our VA was very understanding and very sweet about it. But I felt so silly.
Yeah, it happens, and that's the thing. And that's, I've had that happen in other contacts, not with Spirit clients, but with clients in other businesses where I'm just catching up on work on a Saturday. Like, it's just my choice for whatever reason. I don't have an expectation. And again, I either intended to schedule the emails to go out, or I'm updating something that's a shared document, like a Google Drive. So they're going to see that I'm in there, but I just need to get it off my mind. And then they start thinking, oh, Meredith works on Saturdays. Meredith's available all the time. Meredith's a workaholic. And then when the next weekend comes along and it's a normal weekend for me and I am not doing work, then they're just like, what? But I sent you this on Saturday. I don't know why you haven't got back to me. And it can create this like very frustrating situation.
Yeah, you essentially you breached your own boundary, and that's true. Please, everyone, use the Google Schedule button. Although I forgot to do it with that communication last weekend, I do it all the time with client communication. Again, nothing on fire here, so I will schedule. Sometimes again, my choice to work on the weekend. It's my choice if I work on the weekend. And sometimes if I have nothing else going on, I'll just get some emails scheduled to go out. But I could just send the email and have the client receive it on a Saturday or Sunday. But one, I don't want to, assume that they want that email coming into their inbox on the weekend. And two, I want to maintain our boundary of business hours for communication. And again, like you said, I don't want them to think that we're just at 24/7, we can respond to emails of any type. So we have that scaffolding for our own boundaries. But I think it works great for both the customer and for us because it sets up their expectations. They know how we communicate, how they can communicate with us. And I think just taking the mystery out of that is really important.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I think, there's tools also that we can use to enforce certain boundaries. So for me, I don't get email alerts on my phone because that makes it really hard to shut off on the weekends. I try to be very, for my personal boundary, I try to make it very much like that work doesn't happen generally between like Friday afternoon. I sort of have this, I have this personal belief that like nothing good happens after like noon on Fridays. So I try to just not engage or plan a lot of work because usually it's whatever it is just going to create a problem over the weekend. Save it till Monday. So I don't get, and I don't try to work in the evenings, all that kind of stuff. So for me, a really helpful tool is to not get email alerts on my phone. I don't get the little thing that pops up. There's nothing. I have to like open my phone, go to the email icon, open it, and see all my emails. And that has been hugely helpful because we have all been there, right? You get the alert and you're like, oh, well, let me just see what that was. Or you just catch a glimpse of the email and you're like, oh, I should. And next thing you know, 45 minutes of your Saturday is gone.
Yeah, well, here's Anne. Anne is actually on our Spirit team. We're so lucky to have her. And she says, I try not to check my work email after hours or on weekends. I just swipe the email alert away. Good for you, Anne.
Selfish to be able to swipe that away.
I think that's so powerful when we, establish our own boundaries and then absolutely respect them. It's so good. I think it just adds to our sanity around our business and sometimes I find that I used to have this issue, and I now see it in other business owners that they fear or they hesitate in setting boundaries because they feel like it is a hurdle to business, like it will be perceived negatively by potential clients or their current customers. And that is, I think, more of a mindset or a misunderstanding of boundaries more than anything else. I know as a consumer, as a customer of other businesses, I appreciate when they have boundaries because it again takes that mystery out of to do business with them, how to communicate with them, how to stay within the scope of the services they provide. Because that's another area where you need boundaries is in your services. How do people do business with you? What are they paying for? And how do they know to stay within the line, color inside the lines of your boundaries? They have to be clearly established, but then also honored. And I know I recently had a situation with a potential client, and she was so adverse to technology that she wanted us to change our client onboarding process, which takes place over a Zoom video call. And she does not like technology. Zoom falls into the realm of technology. And she wanted to do the entire client onboarding, which is a 90-minute intensive. She wanted to do that over the phone. And I said no. And we ended up not getting her as a client because she did not want to color within the lines of our boundaries. They did not work for her, and that's fine. That's fine. Like, I totally get that. But it was a shame because, for us, it wasn't going to work talking on the phone because we want and need a face-to-face with our customers in order for us to get to know them so that we can do a better job for them and provide them with the highest level of service. And I wasn't willing, and we weren't willing to degrade that service in order to accommodate, her aversion to Zoom. So, sometimes you just have to stay within your own boundaries, and, and remember they were established for a very good reason.
Exactly. And that's the lesson I find myself learning a lot is I find myself in a position often where I feel like if I fudge this boundary, if I change this rule, I will serve my client better. And what happens every time is I serve them worse.
Yeah.
So, for example, with my other company, Eden Press, it's a publishing company, so we have deadlines, and I always set the deadlines up very carefully. The book has to be finished by this date so it can be produced by the date you want it on sale. Inevitably, the book is not done. I'm like, it's okay. We can give it another week. It's okay. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. And every time I do that, we end up rushing, mistakes get made, the client's frustrated, they miss it. Like it's a mess. And it would have been much better for everybody else if I'd held firm and said, if the book is not done by this date, that we cannot guarantee the publishing date. Like we'll make other adjustments as necessary, but like fudging those lines. And that is a mistake. I do that over and over because I constantly feel like, not like I need to serve the client because they'll be mad at me, but just like legitimately, I want them to be happy. I want to make it work the way that they want it to work. And I go back on my own thing, and it's always a disaster. Someday, hopefully, I'll stop learning that lesson. But it's like your example, we set the process up for a reason. You don't do anybody any favors by breaking it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Meredith. I have become a bigger and bigger advocate and believer in boundaries, not only as a way to build a sustainable business, and we use the word sustainable for a reason. Sustainable meaning you can sustain a life within your business financially, spiritually. It can work for you,
Mentally.
and without boundaries, you cannot make any business work for you,
Mhm.
and even in your personal life. So I would love to hear how our audience has used boundaries in their business. I would love to also hear stories about when you've breached or blurred your own boundary lines and what happened, because I think we can all learn from each other's experiences. Let's see. Oh, hold on. Amy. Hi, Amy. She says, "Yep, I recently bent one of my rules and I am paying the price for it." There you go. Learn from our mistakes. Learn from our mistakes. This has been a great conversation, Meredith. Thank you for sharing your experiences with blurred boundaries. And
Yes.
we will see everybody next week for another episode of Business Learning Lab.
All right.
All right. Bye, everybody.